All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to meeting 116 of the New York State Canal Recreationway Commission. We are here convened at the 10th floor of the Albany headquarters of the New York Power Authority and Canal Corporation, Albany, 30 South Pearl Street. Our thanks to all of the commissioners who have traveled in today and those who are joining us online. Here we have Commissioner Cal Wysokowski, Commissioner Doug Cole, Commissioner Steve Iacchetta, Commissioner Natalie Stetson, all the way from Syracuse. So welcome, commissioners. And online, we have Commissioner Fra Patorti and Commissioner Ken DeRoller. Commissioner Patorti from Whitehall, Commissioner DeRoller from Medina, and we are thrilled to have them. We also have agency representatives and regional planning commission members from various regions across the state, and they include Paul Beyer from the Department of State, Sarah Emmert from Empire State Development and I Love New York, David Brown from the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, and Laura DeBetta, Department of Environmental Conservation. And our regional commission, planning commission, members include Ruth Sutherland from the Greater Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council and Mark Castiglione from the Capital Region Planning Council. Also with us today, joining us online, is our esteemed member of the New York State Power Authority and Canal Corporation Board of Trustees, B. Gonzalez. Thank you, trustee, for joining us today, and it's always a pleasure to have you back with us. I'm informed we have a quorum. Is that correct, Kim? We have a quorum, so we're going to bring officially gavel in and bring meeting number 116 of the Canal Recreationway Commission to order. And of course, as always, the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the meeting from our last meeting, which was meeting 115, and that took place virtually on January 29th, 2024 from our Canal Corporation headquarters office here in Albany. All of the commissioners should have received the minutes yesterday and have had a chance to review them. We will take a motion to move them and a second, and then we will have discussion on the minutes. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes? By Commissioner Wysokowski, second.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Iacchetta. Well, and I think I heard Fra second that also. Thank you, Fra. Discussion on the minutes. Are there any changes, any comments, any discussion on the minutes as presented? Hearing no objections and no discussion, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. I think the ayes have it. The minutes are moved and accepted. Thank you very much. We've heard Commissioner DeRoller and Commissioner Torti and their concurrence on the vote. So that's going. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, please. We'll give you an overview of where we are and what we're going to do today. And that is the agenda as you see it. We've already gone through the welcome and the introductions, the call to order. And we're going to move in now to item number 4, which I have on my agenda, which really comes out to item number 3 there, but you'll be able to follow along. And that is an update on our CRC 2050 plan update. And I am very pleased to introduce Commissioner Cal Wysokowski, who has taken that on, along with Capital Planning Manager for Reimagine the Canals, Justine Heilner. Justine, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you both with us. Commissioner Wysokowski, I will turn the floor over to you. We will advance to the next slide and let you begin your presentation and update.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Before we get to the CRC refresh, I did want to just comment on the accessible forum at Monroe Community College. It was in the minutes. It was really well done. So kudos to everybody who had a hand in selecting the panelists. It was a full house. I attended and I walked away with new information, and that's always a good thing. So thank you to everybody who put that together. That was a great great forum. I look forward to the next one. I think it's 6 months or so. I'm not
It'll
sure
be in
when.
September, I think. This is the SUNY Erie Canal Bicentennial Forum Series, which
Correct.
we have restarted, and we began it on April 10th at Monroe Community College with an accessible recreation on the Canalway forum, more than 120 in attendance, keynote address by Governor Hochul's Chief Disability Officer. Panel discussions, moderations. It was a wonderful event, and it's under the organization of Angela Chandler and her amazing team, along with Kim Morapello and Darby Racy. So we're looking forward to the next Bicentennial Forum. Thank you, Cal. I was going to mention that when we get to general business,
sorry.
but
Didn't mean to
always
jump the hoop,
for
but
positive comments, the floor is always
Usually.
yours.
well,
All
thank-
negative ones you keep to the
Thank
end.
you.
Okay.
um,
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, so the plan refresh is well underway. I appreciate all the support that we've gotten from Michelle Bernard and Steve Aiketa. We got a chance to review the 30% draft, and I really like the way it's shaping up. I think we will have a chance to talk about that a little bit more very soon. But I did hear also from Michelle Bernard, who couldn't be here today because her grandson is graduating, which is fantastic. Congratulations, Michelle. She has provided some notes for me as well. She read through that draft, but she also wanted to thank the team for their outreach as part of the first part of this plan. She thought it was really well done, really well organized. Folks listened, and yeah, and Shane, your name came up as having a hand in helping to organize that. So all in all, we're off to a great start. And so, yeah, I'm going to turn it over now. Justine, you can go through.
Okay, great. I am Justine Heilner, and I am one of the capital planning managers managing this project. And I don't have a whole lot to add except to introduce our consultant agency, LNP, who I believe you met briefly at the last meeting. But they will be running through their update after having heard a lot from us, meaning everyone at Canals and NIPA, and then also hearing from the CRC core team, and also traveling the canal system and starting to meet folks on the system and seeing it for themselves. So they've turned in their 30% update to the draft and are about to start going out to meet a wider group of stakeholders and the general public. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to the agency team. Are you guys there?
Hello, hi Justine. Hi everyone. Hi everyone, my name is Rhiannon Sinclair. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty on our end, being able to all get on. So if there is anyone who is able to make Matt Kinda from our team a speaker as well, Annie, myself, and Kate will be able to join from this space, but we'll want Matt to be able to join to share some of his piece as well. But while we go through that, thank you so much for giving us so much time from a really important meeting to share this 30% update with you all. As Justine had shared previously, we've already met with you a couple of months ago when we shared an introductory version of our team and what we were planning to do. And so now we're excited to share a little bit of what we've done. And that little bit is 30%. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So briefly, agenda, again, you generally know who we are. My name is Rhiannon. I am with the agency landscape and planning team, and we have a whole range of luminaries that are helping us as well, and I'll go through that in a moment. We want to share briefly our process, a little bit of what 30% means and where we are with that 30%, and then also share some plan progress. And we don't want to do all the talking. We don't want to do all the work. We also want you all to help us inform this plan and its next steps. So we have 2 activities we want you all to engage in with us. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So we are quite a large team that engages local luminaries from Fisher Associates, Natula developing a website, David Klein around conservation, and our firm landscape architecture and planning, and also community engagement. So we are working closely with Justine and others from your organization, others from NYPA, to really ensure that we have all of the right information to start to craft this vision document. And on the next slide. So we're 30% through. If it wasn't clear from the title of the first slide, we are just finishing up what we're calling our listening and learning phase, and you all are really the icing on the top of that cake. We want to hear what your thoughts are about how we craft this vision moving forward, and we'll share what we've learned so far. Thank you. Good to see that Matt's online. And from here, we're going to shift into the visioning phase, going about community workshops and deeper public outreach, which we haven't done yet, and then start to draft recommendations and goals, draft that vision together with you all to reflect internal and external conversations. From there, at the end of the summer, we are going to start developing the strategy. So we'll vet those recommendations together with this group and with the core CRC team that has been engaging more directly with us thus far. We'll have another series of outreach moments and continued conversations. And we're doing this all to complete the plan by the end of the year. So on the next slide. So thus far, as I said earlier, all of our engagement has been internal. And so when we say internal, what we mean is mostly focused on the staff that manage, operate, maintain the various locks and canal elements along the system, as well as key stakeholders, representatives from towns and villages up and down each of the canals. And so this long list represents all of the folks that we met with over a week-long almost sprint for us to really get to know the system, to really get to know all of the voices that make the communities, make the canal infrastructure itself all function. And as part of that, we also shared these little comment cards, and folks shared what they thought their vision might be, what they thought the biggest barriers to achieving that vision might be. And much of it centered around things like staff capacity. It functioned or focused on the relationship that many people have with the many water bodies along the canal system and opportunities to leverage those, as well as how we really leverage the history of the canal. Next slide. So we also went about stakeholder focus groups. Those were largely internal to the organizations as well that make the canal system function, and they were organized around these 6 topics. So land use and permitting, really thinking critically about real property and the future of that. Boots on the ground, people who are actively on the locks, maintaining these various spaces. Environment and climate change, so thinking critically about sustainability and the future of the system and how it will relate to the future of New York as a state and in our climate future. Equity, which equity and public interface, I think in some ways go hand in hand, but digging into all of the ways that we ensure that access is inclusive, that we are representative, and that we are engaging with the many audiences that come to the canals, as well as how we interface with the communities along the canals. And then last but certainly not least, those who are deeply engaged in managing or preserving the identity of the system. And so there are many different perspectives that were included as part of these conversations, and gave us a lot of insights, both going into the site visits and post-site visits. The next slide. And I'd be remiss not to mention all of the wonderful materials that Justine and Paul shared with us early on in this process. We received a deluge of documents, including your own, this group's own documentation and past reports, to really help us understand the history of the system and opportunities for where it can go next. The next slide. And so with that, the 30% update report is focused on the idea of many canals, but one system. There is one unified system that brings all of these spaces together, but each of the canals and each of the segments along the canals are quite unique in their nature. And so we're going to share a few ways as to, or a few kind of thoughts on how they're unique. But what we really want to reinforce is that to us, our observations, our conversations, our research, we understand that this is a really nice moment to reflect and celebrate the diverse roles that New York State canals play locally, nationally, and internationally. Next slide. And so the plan itself is organized by 6 chapters. Each chapter is touching on a different topic that is relevant to the canals as they exist today and to its future. And so I'll just quickly run through this list, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues to go through each one of these. The first is the role of the canals as a historic asset. The second, the role of the canals as a recreation way. Third, as an economic engine. Fourth, culturally connecting the many communities along the canals. Fifth, ecological system, and sixth, infrastructure. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Annie to walk through historic asset on the next slide.
Thank you, Reed. So yes, this first perspective that we wanted to share is just thinking about the canal system as a historic asset. We heard a lot about and saw a lot on our visit about the physical historic traces of history that are located all along the canals, the infrastructure, buildings, artifacts, equipment, and then also about how different stories are told along the canals and different pieces of the canal system that are celebrated and documented along the canals. And then about opportunities to engage with that history. So things like exhibits and tours and signage and the different moments where people are having an opportunity to understand what came before and how history plays into the canal system. And so we also heard a lot about how there are many different histories of the canal system and some stories that are told more frequently than others or are amplified more strongly. And so thinking about ways as we move ahead in this process to use the history as a way to spark new conversations, to tell new stories and experiences, to connect the past to the present, and to really allow for opportunities for unscripted moments and connecting closely with the past. We also heard a lot about just the age of the infrastructure along the canals and how it's such an incredible feat of engineering that also requires a lot of upkeep and investment to maintain. And so thinking about the historic assets of infrastructure as well. And so with that, we can move to the next topic. I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Annie. I hope you all can hear me well. In addition to the historical aspect of the canals, we know that the canals play an important role as a recreation way. Recreation is one of the many ways that people engage with the canals today, and it is, I think, the primary way that it remains relevant to people's lives today. You'll see on the left an initial understanding of the different activities from passive to active that many folks engage with along the canals. This is certainly a select sample, but shows the different size of attendance and usership of those different activities, and understanding that they can occur from a short interaction with the canal system of less than an hour, all the way to one of a week or more if they're longer expeditions. Within recreation, we understand that there's an important role that physical activity plays within the strengthening of social connections. So it's not just physical exercise for exercise sake, but it helps people get outside and understand their situation and place within the New York State Canal system. And we also understand that it provides people an avenue to connect with each other, with neighbors they may not otherwise be able to. With that, and because of those great benefits, we also know that the canal needs to become and continue to become more accessible and welcoming waterway for those with disabilities, for those who may not be able to financially access the canal in other means, and for those who are perhaps less familiar with the canal system. And so this is something that we see as central to the expansion of the already very successful recreation activities that are happening. And with that, I'll pass it over back to Reed to talk a little bit about the economic aspects.
Thank you, Matt.
Next slide, please.
Perfect. So we'd be remiss not to reference both related to the history of the canals and also potentially its future, just how great of an opportunity the canals are as an economic engine. They're already operating as an economic engine in many ways, supporting a variety of different industries that take advantage of the canal system's waterways or take advantage of real estate along the canals, close to important communities that provide workforce for those businesses and industries. And so to us, this is a really nice moment to reinforce that the industrial roots of the canal system can also be a key to unlocking its future success. And we're seeing this happening across the globe in many ways, in many canal systems, and you all are already taking advantage of this, whether it be to move large blocks of granite for the construction of major bridges within New York State, or to move significant pieces of infrastructure for breweries and their production. The canals represent a really nice opportunity for commercial shipping. It also represents a moment to reflect on key spaces where the canal can provide water for whether it be agricultural industries or the important golf courses that host major national championships, as well as industries that require water for cooling. And so we want to both reflect that in our understanding of what the canals can accomplish, while also acknowledging that this moment that the canal system is in to really leverage itself as an economic engine should also be thoughtful about the impact to the communities along the canal. We know that the communities that have embraced the canal and have embraced change are the ones that also have been able to be successful and to thrive economically, while the economic development of canal communities that haven't been able to adapt are starting to shrink and are losing population and losing those opportunities for future economic development. So those two are tied, and it's important to think both locally and regionally across the canal system as we talk about economic development. So on the next slide, Kate's going to go through ecology.
Absolutely. So as the landscape geek on the team, it's really exciting to dig into what you all know well, that this is an immense ecological system. The canal runs through several different ecoregions on its traverse across New York State, and actually has many different ways of expressing its landscape typology as it moves through that space, as it goes up and down in different hydrological configurations. So we understand that, there are areas where it's very engineered, like the more embankment areas on the western side, areas where it's really an urban hard edge, a really constructed edge to it, areas where it really is a natural river with natural river edge, and areas where the Old Erie diverges from the Barge Canal and has been occupied really as a wetland and a natural system for many, many years. I think it's fascinating for us. It's been really interesting to dig in with you to conversations about what kinds of animals use this as an ecological corridor, as well as, and some of those are native species, like the owl and the snapping turtle, and others of those are invasive species. I think looking ahead, we've had lots of fascinating conversations with you all about the ways in which you've found success in managing aquatic invasive species, such as the work along the Champlain Canal, managing the round goby, and also the opportunities that exist to use the canal as a key tool in the state's work with habitat restoration and climate resilience. And this is everything from some of the big picture opportunities like restoration and connection to the Montezuma wetland system, but it's also the micro opportunities that the canal affords for management of aquatic invasive species and habitat provision for things like migrating monarchs. So those can be very small interventions, and there can also be these larger interventions that really think about connecting to critical wildlife areas and wetland systems. So excited to continue that work with you all. And next it goes back to Matt on the next slide.
Thanks, Kate. So as you all know well, the canals as much as a physical space are a cultural one. Something we heard repeatedly and we were very struck by is the deep connection that folks feel to being part of a canal community and what that means to them. That canal communities along the system, whether they're neighboring or many miles away, feel some sort of kinship and work together. They learn from each other. They grow and build on the success of programming that others have hosted. We heard a lot about the successful and exciting traveling barges from the Corning Museum of Glass to the Albany Symphony Orchestra. And that's something that we would like to reflect in our upcoming plan, the use of the canal as a physical space to proliferate these cultural activities. But we also know that this cultural impact stretches far beyond just the region of upstate New York, that folks come from all around the world and all around the country to learn about the canal system, to learn about its history and its current role today. That also provides a pretty unique opportunity to introduce them to upstate New York as a region. And so we want to make sure that the future of this canal system takes that into account and allows all of the different canal communities to prosper and in whatever form that may look like for them. So with that, I'll pass it back to Kate to speak a little bit about the infrastructural aspect on the next slide.
Absolutely. I think it was so striking in our tour across the state how many canal workers that Shane was able to connect us to who were incredibly generous with their descriptions of what it takes to maintain this 200-year-old piece of infrastructure. On the left here is our attempt to capture some of that thinking about the sort of life cycle of a lock. The annual schedule of opening water up and opening on sort of a daily schedule, that sort of cycle of opening and draining the locks to allow navigation to occur, letting the water out and then having that maintenance season and really understanding all of the work that goes in to each lock during that maintenance system by lock operators, the motor repair, the electrical work, the painting and the polishing, and just the high level of care and expertise that is embodied in each lock keeper's role with each lock. And then I think we had the opportunity to really dig into what a winter pump out looks like and the crews on site that are draining locks and then doing that really detailed repair and care of the machine parts, both at offsite machine shops as well as on-site, replacing and repairing the gates and the mechanisms there. We were particularly struck by the care and the sourcing needed for the coins, and that as a piece of infrastructure that really is coming forward. So I think that, you know, for us and thinking with you all about what's next in terms of infrastructure, I think that it was clear to us in the conversations we had how important the human capital of the canals was, the knowledge that is captured within the workforce and the care of the infrastructure that embodies is one of the best and most important assets in the system, and transitioning that knowledge to new parts of the workforce will be really important. And then I think it was also really clear to us thinking about, you know, stormwater, storm surge, the flooding, the toll that's taking on the system, and the need to adequately plan for increasing stormwater in particular. I think we see and heard from folks about the opportunity of using parts of the old Erie as a really important part of the state's stormwater infrastructure system, and are excited to continue to explore that with you all. So on the next slide, we have a few key questions for you. I'm going to turn it over to Annie.
Great. So these are just a few of the questions we're thinking about as we move into the 60% phase. And then what we really want to ask all of you is about your visions for the future. And so we'd like to spend a few minutes hearing from you all. But some of the things we are thinking about are these are color coded to align with those topic areas we just showed, but thinking about how can the canals be relevant for future generations? How can canal recreation be made more accessible to all New Yorkers? Which industries can support long-term success of canal communities in the region? How might we predict what future cultural drivers will be? How can the canals be part of the solution for community resilience? And where can resources be most effectively deployed? And so if you go to the next slide, We wanted to hear from you all about your vision for the canals in 2050 and what you see as kind of the highest priorities, or any responses to what we've shared so far, and what you think your vision for the future of the canal system is.
Now, is that something you want now?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
I
would be
think-
great.
Yes,
Commissioners?
yes, I think that's what we
So
want.
the question's open, commissioners. What's your vision for the canals for 2050? Are you supportive of what we've seen so far?
Got some thoughts.
Why
ahead,
don't you
Steve.
go? Yeah.
You ready for me?
Take us
Thanks so
out.
much. This is Steve Canal for the folks online. Thanks so much. I'm a recently retired planner, planner emeritus for APA as background.
State your
So
names of our folks.
Steve Iacetta, commissioner residing on Crescent Lake, EC 6 to 7. So challenges and opportunities, a very exciting outline, excellent foundation we have to build upon right now. So kudos to the full planning team and the consultants, especially, and staff supporting them. What I would like to see in the vision is preserve and enhance the linkages to assure that we continue the maintenance of infrastructure and economic development. But what's missing in some ways along the new Empire Trail statewide is interpretive programming and enhancing the connections to all of the cultural centers, not only city, town, and village, municipal centers, all the cultural assets along the canal system, which have been developed through this great transportation corridor. But we need some improved statewide standards for signage, interpretive programming and signage, which is missing as we ride the Empire Trail along our great canal system statewide, west to east, north to south, statewide, to help the public appreciate and understand our place in history, where we've come over many centuries. This corridor was first used by the Native Americans, and they had great long boats that was replaced by the Erie Canal boats and commercial shipping of today, and the recreational tourism, which is now the primary mode along with commercial shipping and commerce for the canal system. So interpretive programming can take many forms. We're missing signage along the Empire Trail. So that's just a thought that I would hope to see come to fruition to preserve and enhance public appreciation of this most wonderful asset statewide. Anyway, just a thought. How do you do?
Great. Thanks for kicking us off, Steve.
I know, that was great.
We want to respond to that in the context of some of the work, Angela, that we're doing for signs, or is to sort of let our
it
team
should be an open
absorb
floor
that
for the
first?
suggestions.
Okay.
I guess we could just say, Steve, that we hear you and we see you and we are working on signage.
Awesome.
Stay
Statewide.
tuned, Steve. Stay tuned.
Thanks so much. A very exciting opportunity. I know there's just good beginnings, excellent
Thank you,
foundation
Commissioner
established.
Iacetta. Any other folks?
Can I read Michelle Venard, who couldn't be here today? A few things that piqued her interest. This goes along the same lines in a way. Storytelling that will connect the past to the future recurs as a theme, and she thinks that we should capitalize on that, perhaps even as a marketing theme, and that should be explored. I thought that was interesting. Sort of again, the storytelling as a way to make that connection. She likes, I found the activities analysis interesting and could warrant more discussion. Not many loopers, the great loopers, not that their impact is significant, but it's an important story, and there are smaller events are likely just as important to some towns. She thinks maybe we package that geographically by interest, and we should explore the kinds of methods that are being used. I thought that was interesting as well. Again, she's more of a tourism focus, so as people come through boats or visit towns, what is the story? What do they see? Yeah. I forgot to mention you before, Natalie. I'm sorry. As a
It's
member of
okay,
the
Cal. I
committee.
promise I don't. I take no offense.
Okay, thank you.
You'll go right ahead. Doug.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes, Doug Cole, With my engineering background, I guess I would like to focus on infrastructure. Without the infrastructure, there is nothing to go visit. So not only, making sure that the infrastructure stays relevant and maintained for the next 200 years, but to add infrastructure to draw people to the site. So like parks and things along, new infrastructure along the canal. That's my piece.
Parks and restrooms and showers. and
Yes.
All those little things.
Right.
Might that go hand in hand with more grant opportunities and further enhancing some of the funding structures that are already out there through DRI and New York Forward and the other combined recreation, tourism, event grant program that we have? We can always use more dollars, but that's an excellent point, Doug. Thank you. Commissioner Stetson.
Yes, I think when I think about 25 years from now, I think in many ways we are all on a lot of right tracks and thinking about what New York State's role is. And I think something that's really wonderful that's been happening is the On the Canals program, and how On the Canals is allowing others to do the work of creating and hosting programs, as opposed to the state adding that to its long list of maintaining a over 100-year-old body of water like that. And maybe that's more of a question I have, is like, how does the state see its role 25 years from now? Do you see yourself continuing to support that work being done by others? Do you want to grow to the point where you have a activity office in the different regions across the state where you're creating your own events? Or because the canal is so full of potential, it's so full of I think I've said before, maybe you all have heard me say before, that one of my very favorite things about the Erie Canal is that it is kind of a microcosm of American history. You can tell the story of our nation through this body of water, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, like all the pieces of what makes us a country can be told right here in our backyards, and continuing to grow and hopefully make our country bigger, better, stronger. Maybe that's a very ambitious outlook, but I feel that we have the ability to make change, the ability to help people think differently and explore right here in our backyards. And so the role of the state and then the role of places like the Erie Canal Museum or a kayak tour operator in, I don't know, Buffalo or wherever, like, how do we all work together in a way that makes sense and is transparent, but in supportive of each other? I don't know if I made any sense at all just in there, but I rambled a little bit.
Natalie, were you among the sites that the team visited?
Yes.
They've been to the Erie Canal Museum, so
Yes,
you've had the
we were
opportunity
they converged at our site, which is very nice.
You had an opportunity to meet with them there and to get into a deeper dive, certainly.
Yes.
On some of your thoughts. Excellent. Thank you.
Is it okay if we respond to what you shared quickly too?
Yeah.
Natalie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Natalie, you made so much sense to us. We were kind of sidebarring as you were speaking, and what really strikes us is that 25 years from now, today will be the history that we're talking about. And so to us, that means that this is a really nice moment to say, like, what historic moment do we want to be creating today? And think about kind of like, if we look to history to define that, the canals represented a moment that really signified the rise of New York State and New York City as like the economic engine of the country. And so what does it mean, if we think about that economic engine, is this a moment to say that the canals are going to signify the rise of New York State as heralding a carbon neutral future in commercial shipping? Is it, what do we want this moment to be? What do we want the historic moment of the CRC commissioners in 25 years to be saying, back in 2024, this is the history that they were creating. And so we're really excited to kind of continue that conversation with you all as well.
Commissioners Patorte and DeRoller, are there comments from you? Both, I think your mics are open, so if there's comments from you relative to the CRC presentation, we'd love to hear from you. All right, well, we'll hold those thoughts, and we'll certainly welcome to submit those by writing also, and we'll put them into the minutes. Want to continue? Continue on?
Yeah, in addition to what our vision is for the canals, I was also interested in some feedback on this first 30%. If you have additional comments, because now would be the time before the team moves to the next 30%. I think it's a nice framework, and I've certainly passed my thoughts and comments along to Justine or Justine.
They were not many and very reasonable in a sense.
But now would be a great time for the commission, when we're all together, especially face to face. What's your initial response to what you just saw and just read?
Yeah,
does it feel right? Does it feel? Yeah, I think we hit a lot of the high points.
And I wanted to just add on to what Cal's saying, that this is the moment where we'll also give the team some direction. They'll still be going out and talking to the public, but also some direction on what we want this report to do and be. So this is a moment to talk about that.
For example, I think for myself, I like this direction, but I also am wondering about, big things like how do the agencies in New York State interact with each other around the canal? Because there are some agencies that have more of an interest and a stake in this waterway than others, but there's a lot of resources in state agencies. And so how are they going to interact with each other to propel us forward in the next 25 years? The management entity itself of the New York State canal system, is that something that we should be talking about? Or should we give a nod to that, or should we really take a look at that? Since I've been around, right, we were at DOT and then we're at the Thruway, now we're at NYPA. 25 years from now, where will we be? And we want to even talk about that kind of stuff. I think this gives us a nice springboard to that. And I don't want to go off on all different tangents, but those were some of my few of the things I was thinking about in terms of a plan moving forward.
Well, I like how you started off with a good foundation of talking to the people that actually work on the canal and finding out their day-to-day duties and how things work. I think that was a great foundation for this. And then, I agree with the 6 categories were really well selected to help this forward.
I do think a big piece of what you just said was that maintenance of that waterway. After this, Ambrose is going to tell us all about what's going on.
Well, I'll be bummed out.
And he speaks to us every quarter about the maintenance of the canal and the rotation of the lock care, and that is never ending. That will, as long as this canal exists, which definitely, right? These locks will always have to be maintained, and how 25 years from now that won't be any different, and what are those resources that the state will need, that we will need, to make sure that we are caring for this incredibly impressive historical infrastructure system. And so having infrastructure is one of those categories. Because I think, like you said, Doug, that doesn't exist without that. Like, what are we talking about? We are talking about this man-made body of water.
This is Steve Iacetta. Hydropower would not exist without the canal system. The power aspect needs to be referenced in this outline, the 6-part outline. Would it be under the 6th of the 6 components, infrastructure, that you referenced the key importance of power, hydropower in New York State? It's a key component of our state power grid generation. Not only transport that we all focused on, history and transport, cultural aspects, the power aspect, another key tenet, right? Consultants, any thoughts on the hydropower aspect? Question?
We imagine right now, as it's written, we have, we talk about hydropower both in infrastructure as well as an economic engine. And so I think in some ways it's not as perfect as like fitting it into one bucket, because its impacts are, like you said, are stretch beyond just about kind of its role in New York. It also digs into opportunities of thinking about economic impact, environmental impact. And so I think we are happy to kind of fit it within a bucket, but also thought that it might play a variety of roles across topics.
Thank you.
I think that's it from us, right?
I
mean,
think
we're
you've
good.
got some other slides here in your package. Summer visiting ideas, engagement, next
do.
steps.
Yes, we
Yeah,
wanted
go ahead.
to spend a few minutes just taking you through some things we're thinking about for summer engagement, and hear from you all about where you think we should talk to people, the best methods for outreach, things like that. So we wanted to pivot a little bit to that discussion, if that's all right. So if you move to the next slide. As part of the timeline for this project, you can see we have kind of these two big chunks of community engagement, and we are looking ahead to one that will be kind of June and July as a visioning with the community. And so that's the one we really want to focus on with you all today, is thinking about the best strategies for that outreach, where we should locate, how we should reach people, and hear from you all about that. We will be kind of returning to folks in the fall to confirm and refine strategies as we move toward completion of this project in the 90% phase. So if you move on to the next slide. Some of our ideas that we've talked about so far are doing pop-ups at existing events to meet people where they are and capture people along the canals. And so we started doing some brainstorming of events that we'd love to brainstorm together with you all a little bit as well. And then also including standalone workshops that are where we kind of advertise an event and invite people to come and see materials that we've been developing and participate in a more formal workshop setting. And then also supplementing that with some online engagement. There will be a project webpage and a survey on there. We are looking at some virtual meetings in the fall. And then also thinking about materials that we can distribute to you all to help us get input and reach more people. So things like postcards or surveys or QR codes to the website, or things that can really make their way to lots of different festivals and events and really expand our reach and hear from more people. You move on to the next slide. Here are just a few of the ideas that we've heard from Shane and Justine and others that we've done some initial brainstorming with. And I know, Shane, you have many, many more ideas that we are excited to hear from you on, and a packed schedule. But we've been thinking about, where are those moments where there are people along the canals where we might reach a lot of people. We might be able to set up a booth or a table where we might leverage people being in one place to host a workshop and sort of be able to pull from people who are already arriving in a certain location. So these were just a few initial ideas. And what we wanted to do is spend a few minutes hearing from you all about what you see as the priorities for this engagement, where you think we might have the most success in attending an event, and how you think, what you would like to see for engagement as part of this process, any strategies that really stand out to you that you think would be particularly effective. And I think if you move on to the next slide, there might be, this is just that we will supplement all of this with QR codes and other ways of getting the word out, and including having you all spread the word. So that was just to add that there. Is there one more slide after this? Yes, there we go. So thinking about how can our outreach be most effective? Where do you think we might want to have about 3 standalone workshops? Which events might be most effective for pop-ups, and how else might we want to spread the word or reach more folks? So I'll turn the floor over to you all.
I like that you have, face-to-face and as well as, sort of online stuff. I think that's really important. We did talk about the importance of a website and being able to get on there and, expressing an opinion or a thought. So I like that.
Well, I was going to mention the Village of Scotia has a summer concert series at Freedom Park right along the Mohawk River. And they usually have 2 concerts per week, starting in mid to late June, all the way through the end of August. And it does draw a ton of people. It's right next to Collins Park and Jumpin' Jacks. So you get a lot of people there if you wanted to start canvassing, talking about Canal.
Do you know the organizer of that?
I used to, but I'm not sure currently who it is. It used to be.
Probably the village can probably.
Yeah, maybe we
contact
can
this.
find it. I'm making a note.
I would also add to that, Doug brings up a very good point. I would also add Mohawk Harbor Harper Jam is another summer series that brings a extremely large amount of people in with their free summer concert series. And of course, that's right along the Mohawk Erie Canal. And then, there's all of our major events during the summer canal days in Fairport. The Tonawandas have their event. Let's not forget the Sasquatch Festival in Whitehall.
Come to your restaurant, Frost.
Might give you a very unique perspective from the Sasquatch followers, but very strong outpouring.
Very strong. It's in September.
In September, and then there's L'Oktoberfest, and then there's the State Fair, of course, and our extremely well-attended booth. Maybe that's an opportunity. The traffic that comes into the fair would be a good opportunity. I could think of many more.
The Cycle to Erie participants would be a good
Oh,
group
wow.
of people
That's a
to,
really good
if
one,
it's
yeah.
700 people with who know the canal quite well by the end of it.
And maybe everybody that comes through the museum, Natalie, that's a tremendous
June and July
checkpoint.
are
You already
busy
have
time for us.
a qualified audience that they're there
Same over in.
interested.
We do have the cards when they visited the museum before they left us with a handful of the cards for people to fill out. So
Right.
we've got those already.
Those are all great, and that's why it's great that we'll have the QR code or cards we can distribute. I think it would also be helpful to think about in your communities, are there other events that aren't on the canal that are happening in this time window? Because we are also trying to reach people who aren't already knowledgeable or engaged with the canal, right? And get a wider audience to talk to. So if you might not think of it now, but if you think of anything, send it our way.
I think like in Syracuse, there's an event called Taste of Syracuse, and I feel like it can't be the only one that has something like that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most popular. People come from all over downtown to do that. And we're not on the canal any longer, obviously, but I feel like the taste of whatever must happen in other places.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you look for events that are in canal communities but aren't necessarily physically next to the water or structured as a canal themed event? Or would you look to other communities which are really not on the canal?
As I was talking, I was thinking to myself, oh no, like how wide are we going to go here?
Yeah, be careful.
Right. But that's a really good question. I think that's something the team should talk about a little bit. I think the State Fair is a great example where it's not just canal folks who are coming to that. So canal adjacent communities for sure. But if you think of something that you just think, oh, I love going to this event and I know people are there, please.
So the public
Remind us of
market
it,
in
yeah.
Rochester would be a good one. That's a huge draw. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
How about
people
the
don't know about the
Lilac
canal.
Festival?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
A little too
Starts
late,
Friday.
yeah.
But a place like Rochester was interesting when we had the state conference there. So many folks live right along the waterway, have no clue, not a clue. That might be really interesting. So the public market.
Yeah, so we're still a Canal community, but it's not necessarily the people who are already
That's correct.
knowing about it.
And it was interesting, there's parts of, there's neighborhoods in the city where there's youth clearly have never seen the waterway, have never been on it. And we have, programs that are helping to get families onto the waterway. That might be interesting. There's more.
It's an interesting idea of using like public markets or farmers markets as a place to just have a booth for a day.
Yeah, the
And
Ithaca
again,
Farmers Market, for
exactly,
example.
yeah.
That's part of the corridor, but.
Yep.
Interesting. Can we give that some more thought?
Yeah, sure. I think
Is the team just gonna come live in New York for 2 months?
I think you can use me as a point person, and obviously you might have thoughts about all of this that come up after this moment. Please feel free to send them my way.
It's too bad that I don't know if Sarah and or Ross are on the call from I Love New York, because they are certainly tapped into everything that's going on far and wide.
Yeah.
Tourism world.
Yeah,
Sasha,
thank
go ahead.
Thank
There
you,
it is.
Brian. I was just actually typing in the chat because I didn't want to interrupt the
Sarah.
conversation, but our I Love New York mobile tour goes across the state and also into some of our drive states throughout the summer. So I was kind of pulling up the calendar of events. One event that I thought was interesting that you guys might consider is Buffalo Juneteenth. That's in June, and certainly has the ability to reach a lot more diverse audiences too, which I think is important. And certainly a lot of the New York City festivals, I could see reaching a larger market of people that might be interested in traveling to canal towns. We're activating at a number of downstate events, including New York City Pride, Harlem Pride, as well as some in our drive markets like in New Jersey. This just kind of captures those visitors that are often driving to a lot of these locations.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. That's excellent. There's also a big event. We just came back this week from the launch of the Seneca Chief out of the Longshed, which is a replica of Governor DeWitt Clinton's canal boat from 1825, which has been under construction for the past 4 years. Launched in a very strong public outpouring on Tuesday, but there's a more formal event for the dedication of it, which is Saturday, May 25th, which is Memorial Day weekend at the Buffalo waterfront. Certainly everyone knows about that. And I don't know if that's something that you can mobilize for, but that might be an opportunity to interact with many people that are interested in the project, but may have another larger interest in the canal.
This is really great. And we'll continue to build out our list and Justine work with you and Shane and the rest of the team to finalize that. And I think one thing we just wanted to call out too is we're thinking about ways to have lots of different materials that can show up in different formats so that we might be able to leverage your help or the help of others to reach places where we can't be everywhere at once. So anyone who's up for it, we might be asking you to help take around some flyers or some cards or something and really get out to as many events as possible.
Commissioner Batorte, Commissioner DeRoller, I know you're online. If you would like to add to the conversation, speak up. Trustee Gonzalez, would you like to offer any input to this subject?
I've been busy in the chat and Matt has been responding to me. So.
I haven't seen the chat, but
Bowman has been taking pictures of it, so we have a record over here.
We'll make sure your comments, trustee, are entered from the chat into the record.
We get a thumbs up also.
Good.
And this is Propatorti, I think, up here in the far end of the canal system, and just by Lake Champlain. First of all, I say the ladies, two ladies that came down were great. We had a great time in there. I think it was the first stop in the morning. And I think we do need to spread some more stuff up this north end up here and see if get us going up here. We need some help.
Well, as you see, Commissioner, I did try to promote the Sasquatch Festival
You
as
did, yes.
as a must stop.
And I said, we do it in the summertime, starting next month, we have concerts in the park, but we don't get a big crowd for that every Friday night. And we do have a festival coming up on the canal, so, but I think we should get that documented somewhere. But thank you, again, thank you, you guys are great when you came up, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We still have our selfie all together with the Sasquatch, so it's in the back of our minds that is an important festival to attend.
That's a well attended 1,500 people.
Yeah,
We
it's a
will
big
be,
deal.
Fantastic.
and they're all believers too.
I said it's about 3,000 people.
Oh,
3,000.
3,000.
And I think Shane's coming. I think
3,000.
3,000. I think Shane's coming up this year.
Yeah, it's on my calendar.
Yeah,
Yes.
All right, we have a lot of wonderful canal events, some which you can understand and some which you may not be immediately aware of why they exist. But they're wonderful events. Okay.
Great
Cal,
stuff.
any more?
Wait,
This
so
is a
good?
wonderful conversation and a great presentation. Let's remind the firm that you're working with. I don't know that you introduced them formally.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's called the agency.
Agency Landscape and Planning.
Agency.
Thank you,
for short.
agency team.
Okay.
And we should remind the people that are watching that the Canal Recreationway Commission is required by law to update the Canal Recreationway Plan periodically. It has not been updated since it came into being in 1992. Is that correct, Cal?
95.
95. So we're
Wow.
well behind, but that's why we're making the big reach to 2050. And so this is an ongoing process. 30% complete, and we'll look forward to our next update at our next commission meeting, and then all of the meetings that Justine and her team do in between, working with our partners here on screen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Very good.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cal and Justine, excellent job. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to add before I move on to our next item?
Just as I said, my email inbox is open. My phone is also available. So if anyone has thoughts later.
It might be a good idea to send those questions that
Yeah.
that the team posed to us
Send the
Good idea.
slideshow with the questions.
in real time, maybe in an email,
Do that, that's
some
a good idea.
additional thoughts.
Great idea.
Do, Director, if you don't mind, before we leave this fully, before I forget, Justine, let's have a sidebar with Bill, Liz, our team about events we're
Yes.
already tabling at.
Yes.
So we can help agency if we're already going to be there. And if we have their material, that may help spread or capture more. So I just, before we
Yes.
fully lose that thought, we can have that sidebar with Bill and Liz and figure out how to manage that too.
They are, the state is a very big state and they are limited in their hours and ability
Right.
to be at every place. So the more we can help them with their information gathering.
Sorry, thank you.
Good. Wonderful conversation. We're going to move on now to our next item, which is an operations update. And hard to believe, but next week the canal opens up for its 200th consecutive season. 200 years is not official until 25, but we're getting that way, kind of like when you celebrate, Shane, your 29th birthday, you're starting your 30th year.
That's true.
So that's how the math works in that case, and that's how it works. And back with us again, that'll open Friday, May 17th. We're going to do some opening ceremonies in Waterford at Lock E2, the entrance to the Erie Canal on the eastern end. Back with us again to provide an overview of the completion of our winter work and the operational updates that are in store for this coming season is our Director of Waterways Maintenance, Ambrose.
Thank you, Director.
Ambrose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very busy winter, as you can imagine. We had a lot of work going on, so I'm going to run through this and kind of give you an idea of what we've been working on. So next slide. So safety, I always like to give a safety update. It's obviously the most important thing to our employees. You see there is the 2024 DART as of today. And actually, I was updated this morning. It's a little bit lower than that, closer to 5. And as you can see, compared to like our usual annual average, it's a bit higher. But this is a trend we've been seeing for the last several years where, the beginning part of the year, we're doing a lot of work, especially at the pump outs and other things. The weather is not the best. We're getting ready for opening. That dart rate tends to kind of creep up a little bit early in the year, but pretty much every year as we get into the summer season and into the fall, it drops back down closer to those numbers you see down at the bottom. So, just a lot of work going on, and as you can imagine, slips and falls and other things that tend to raise that dart rate a little bit early in the year. So, next. So this is, I think last meeting I kind of outlined, these are where all our pump out projects were, one in each section. I'm happy to say they were all completed. The scope was completed at all of them. A couple of these sites we will be going back to next year because there was quite a bit of work to do and we knew we couldn't finish it all in one season. So all those sites are complete. And of course, next time when I come talk to you, we'll have the list for next winter completed. And it always seems like it's a continuous, we finish one session and we're getting ready for the next. So, this is all in addition to, I think earlier they mentioned every winter, each lock is doing their own individual thing. In addition to these, you've got lock chiefs and operators rebuilding motors and boards. So, that's all been put back together. And here we are getting ready for the opening of 2024. So
some of our public tours up the pump outs, we weren't able to all check off due to some of the weather. I know,
yeah.
On the Oswego Canal, lock number 1 was canceled once or twice, and some others. But importantly, we were able to get all the work done. Right?
We were, and overall, though, unfortunately, the few bad days we had it was a relatively mild winter, so we really were able to get in there early. Complete the work. We didn't get a lot of snow, so it was actually a perfect winter for doing this type of work.
We do, Ambrose, I'll just jump in for a second on the public tour, because yes, some of ours that we had planned were canceled due to inclement conditions for that day. We do have, which we're going to start to share next week, a really great video on our pump outs. So our transportation maintenance engineer for sections 1 and 2 here on the eastern end, the Fort Edward Champlain Canal in the eastern area here in Waterford, Nick Hansen led a tour that we videotaped. So it is a kind of step-by-step walk through a pump out, showing all the different working components, what the workforce does. It's about a 7.5 to 8 minute video that our team shot and we produced it in-house. But we're going to be sharing that next week with everybody. So we'll make sure that gets out to the commissioners because it really shows a great behind the scenes, how a pump out is accomplished and all that work there. So we'll get that out to everybody starting next week.
I think I said this to Shane yesterday. We've got a really great crop of new young engineers that are coming up that are kind of doing these videos. So myself, Joe Maloney, Brendan Simon, we've kind of passed the torch a little bit. So it's really great to see them involved. Okay, next. So alongside all our maintenance forces, we've been very fortunate, especially since we've come over to NYPA, with engaging contractors to do some of this work as well. A lot of this work you can only do in the winter. So with our forces busy on doing these pump outs and other work, it's really great to have contractors and many times working alongside our forces, such as, the Lions Dry Dock project or the E28 miter gate repairs. We've got crews maybe working on one part of the lock and a contractor making repairs at another lock. And it just enables us to get a lot more work done every winter. And as I think Commissioner Cole said, without this infrastructure, on Pendleton Guard Gate, way out west, that's a guard gate that holds back Lake Erie. So without proper repairs, that's a lot of water coming our way. So, and then Albion and Brockport lift bridges, those are a major project that we do in coordination with DOT. They design the project, they let it, but we have a share on those as well. So some really good projects there as well. And that's just a handful of them. These were the major ones, but there's quite a bit of work going on every winter, both on the maintenance side and the contractor side. So next. So of course, Director Stratton talked about the season opening next Friday. And right now we're just putting the finishing touches on everything, setting some last second buoys, movable dams in the Mohawk. We're going in this week. So they all tell me we're ready to go. So we'll see, but I think the weather looks like it's going to cooperate, so we should be in good shape. I also want to talk about, many of you probably saw a few weeks ago, we put out an NTM about the hours for the season. They're a little bit different than the past years, and I guess I wanted to give a little background on how we came up with those. We looked at a lot of data. We have boater traffic data, and what we tend to see is, we were open and a lot of locks were 7 to 5, others were 7 to 10. We weren't seeing the usage in that first hour. 7 to 8 was very sparse. And what we do hear from a lot of stakeholders is when you're only open till 5 o'clock, we can't get out and go for a boat ride or go to dinner after we get out of work. So what we decided to do, seeing the usage was not very high in the morning, we kind of shifted those hours to later in the day. So now we're open, our standard hours are 8 to 6. And also the locks that were typically 7 to 10, we dropped those back to 8 to 9 because the same thing, the morning wasn't getting the usage. And after 9 o'clock at night, there was barely any boats out there. It's dark, it's not safe. So we cut that back as well. It's still the same number of staffing, but what that enables us to do as well, during the day, the person who has the early shift and the person who has the late shift, now they overlap by 3 or 4 hours opposed to only maybe a half hour. So now they can talk about what's going on that day. They can work together. One person can pass boats, the other person can get some work done. So we think it's a big improvement. We really haven't heard any pushback.
We canvassed many stakeholders before the change in conversation with operations, Ambrose, Dave, and the team. Our team, the public engagement group, took it back to several key stakeholders and said, here's what we're contemplating. Here's what the data shows. What are your thoughts? And it all aligned. What we were hearing anecdotally from our surveying, matched up with what Ambrose was seeing in the data, and folks really more interested in a later afternoon locking availability, those later afternoon hours versus that early morning. So the core 10 hours are still there. Right. It's just we've shifted a little bit based on what we've been hearing. So
a little bit more customer focused. So.
And we do on occasion in selected parts of the system during holiday periods or special festival periods, if the community wants the canal open later for just a specific period of time, then Ambrose can certainly take that under consideration. That's been done in Oswego,
Baldwinsville, Brewerton. I mean, fireworks, we know they're going to be out there
fireworks, and people like to go in and out on the boats. We want to keep them safe, but if we can accommodate a later schedule for that particular night, then we'll certainly look at that, but that is not the norm.
And some of this is surrounding staffing. I know we've talked about the difficulty with staffing, and I'll talk about that a little later, but we've left the door open that if we can get the adequate staff that we try to get every summer, we're open to even adjusting those further, keep locks open later if we can. So, and then the last bullet there, I mean, we are actually open right now in a couple areas, especially like Rochester or Lockport, where we have tour boats. And on the Champlain, there's a large cable project that they're going to be running a cable from Canada to New York City. And they've already started that up. So something to see.
It's the Champlain Hudson Power Express project. So power coming down from Canada to the New York City metro market. Contractor working on that is utilizing the canal to ship equipment and the cables, the DC power cables, up through the canal. So the first fiber optic shipment is scheduled for tomorrow, Friday. And then the first in the series of the larger cables, the DC power spools, will be going, I believe, starting next week. So I think there's been high flows coming down the river. There were, it took us a little bit to get buoys in and get some dams set. Seemingly everything is now a go.
original goal was May 1st, and of course, the high flows set us back a little, but we were still able to open this week. So,
A quick question. I heard that when complete, that utility, 20% of New York City's power, is that, I mean, did I hear that?
So you may have. I don't quote me on that one, Cal. I
Okay,
don't know.
that's
No, but yes,
from-
it is a
when-
ballpark of, yeah.
Okay.
And so just also to note, the canal is being used as the corridor to ship
Correct.
the
Yes.
cable and all the equipment up to the lake, up to Lake Champlain. But none of that infrastructure is in the canal proper. I think when they come down the lake and get into the Whitehall area, it leaves the water and it
Okay.
comes down through the land.
But isn't it fed from the canal to the trench? They're actually using parts of the canal to spool the cable off of the barge up to where it's trenched next to the canal?
That's a good
I
technical
thought
question.
that
I don't
was
know the
part
latest.
of one of our.
It could be.
I hope that's true because I told people.
and it's true.
It's true.
Not that we
But-
couldn't do it if we had to.
But there will be a number of shipments this summer going up to Lake Champlain, so.
So the one way that the canal through the commercial navigation, commercial shipping is really helping all of the state, a very important part of the state that doesn't even think about the canal, which hopefully is getting 20% of its power from this project. It is a huge project and it's well needed. And we're going to be talking more about that as we get into the season from a public standpoint, right? Okay. Ambrose, I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. It's all connected. So, next. And the last slide, I like to give an update on where we are with staffing and other things. So on the permanent position side, I know last time I mentioned we were able to get permission to fill 35 additional full-time canal worker positions. So we've been working on that and we're pretty much there. We've got 35 new, we're calling them canal worker ones, which are part of the title consolidation program we're doing. It was great because a lot of these folks have been seasonals that have been coming back for a couple seasons, and now they have an opportunity to come here full-time and be a full-time canal worker. So that's great. We're also in the midst of adding 2 training coordinator positions, which kind of goes hand in hand with the title consolidation and all these new employees. So we're going to be posting for those. On the seasonal front, we're in the middle of that right now. Some areas we've done great. We filled every single position that we've asked for. Some areas, like we were talking in Pittsford earlier, we've not been as successful. I think some of the positives have been at the bottom. The CSEA contract was voted on in February by our board. And there was some nice pay increases in there that I think are helping attract employees. So that's been a positive. But we're still, some areas we're still a little short. So we continue to work on that.
Ambrose, a seasonal position, what we need where we're still short, what is seasonal pay and, you know, I mean, we want to make a pitch any way we can, right?
Depending on the qualifications, it's anywhere from maybe $18 to $25 an hour, depending on what they're qualified for. So it's the lower end, but it's a lot of times it's a foot in the door.
And the qualifications, the minimal qualifications?
Well, the lowest end is just a driver's license. You come in the door, but if
18
you're
years of age or older?
18 or older, and then if you've got some electrical or mechanical background, you qualify as a lock operator, and that's a little bit higher. So anywhere within that range. And the seasonal staffing, especially in the summers, it's the heart of what we do for lock operation. Now, those 35 permanent positions are going to help because that's 35 more people we've got out at the locks that we didn't have before. But we still need, I mean, at the peak, I think we're asking for about 200 seasonal positions in the summer.
But we're still looking for seasonal help. So,
Yep.
Steve, you're within walking distance to Lock 7.
Thanks, sir.
Bring your fiddles with you.
Sure thing.
That's your driver's license too.
Very good. We need that. Thank you.
So, and then I just want to mention our intern program. We've been growing that the last few years. I think this year we're at the highest amount, maybe about a dozen interns that we're going to be hiring. So that's great. And we're hopeful that, you know, those are the folks we can draw from when we, you know, a lot of them are engineering students that will graduate and hopefully become future engineers here at Canals. Title consolidation, we've completed phases 1 and 2. We're building that training program as well that goes along with that. And then we're going to kind of let the first two phases play out this year and this season, make any tweaks that we need to make, and then move on with phases 3 and 4, probably in the next year. And then the HELPS program, that's a statewide program that the state government has enacted the last year or so. And that enables us to hire some entry-level positions across a wide range of positions, engineering and other, without the typical list that you would create by taking a test. It's more based on, if you're qualified, you can submit a resume, we'll interview. If we like you, we can hire you. So it's really helped build the pool, because these lists, lists might be out there for 4 or 5 years, and then it dwindles down to nothing, and then it might take them another year or two to get another test out there. So this is more of like a continuous recruitment program that has been very helpful. And then the last one, the CSEA contract, as I said, that was approved back in February. The employees are starting to see some of those raises and some of the benefits that were in that program. And it was overwhelmingly approved by the union as well, which we normally don't always see. I mean, I think it was probably about a 90% approval. So I think it was a really good contract. And that's it. Any questions for me?
Shane, are we doing public outreach and social media to promote hiring, seasonal slots?
We have a whole, we're hiring campaigns,
And there's
social
signs.
collateral signs, and our HR colleagues have been attending a number of job fairs. College campuses, community colleges, BOCES programs, high school.
Each of you, commissioners, colleagues, staff, friends watching online, come into contact with a lot of people. It's helpful for you to spread the word that we are hiring, that we need, people working there. And Natalie, those coming through the museum who want to, not only see the dream, but live the dream, they can come and work at the Canal over the summer. Engineering students, college students, great opportunities, and retirees. We don't refuse anyone who's qualified. So that's a great opportunity. Ambrose, thank you. Questions for Ambrose? A lot of information there. Commissioner
Just a quick question. What's our closure date? October
16th. I think it's the Wednesday right after Columbus.
Thank you.
Although we stay open later for seasonal tours that are in the western part of the state, mostly Lockport Airport.
About a week or so.
A week or so, maybe through Halloween, maybe through Columbus Day.
end of October. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
The
good.
typical is middle, right after Columbus Day.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeRoller, I understand, is back on. Your technical issues have been.
It seems like they've been resolved, so you can probably hear me now.
Excellent.
So the IT came right in. I've caught everything.
Would you like to catch up on anything that we've talked about up until now, or you want to save it till the end?
I'll save it to the end. I just got a couple comments around the presentations, and I'll do it then.
All right, that sounds fair. Very good.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Ambrose?
As far as the hiring, I'm on Glow Workforce Development. Can I have them contact you to help participate in hiring?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right.
We should be reaching out to those folks anyway, right? I mean, wouldn't our HR department work with local workforce development?
Yes, yeah, they have made a lot of connections. I don't know if Glow is specifically on the list, but I know.
Ken, if you want to email Ambrose, email myself, and maybe Shane, through the three of us, we can, triple down and make sure that information gets passed along.
Excellent. I'll link Kim in and we'll be good to go. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, if there are no more questions for Ambrose, we're going to move on now to our real property item. We have not had a real property item on the agenda for at least the last couple of meetings, but we will move on to agenda item number 6, and that is the proposed abandonment of approximately 0.018, less than 1/10 of an acre of canal land located in the city of Syracuse, Onondaga County. It's along the Syracuse Inner Harbor, along the Creek Walk Trail. And back with us today is our Canal Real Property Specialist, Jessica Foote, to present this item. Jessica, do I have your title proper? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Close enough?
Yep, close enough.
All right. Good. Jessica is with us. Jessica, please take us through this item.
Thank you, Director. Hello, everyone. There's one proposed abandonment for the Commission's consideration today, located in the Western region in the city of Syracuse, Onondaga County. This request is a transfer of jurisdiction to the New York State Department of Transportation. Next slide, please. The abandonment request is for approximately 0.018 acres located in the city of Syracuse, Onondaga County. This parcel is located on the west side along Bear Street right-of-way in the Syracuse Inner Harbor. This parcel is not presently needed or anticipated to be needed for the operation and maintenance of the canal system. Next slide, please. The property proposed to be abandoned and transferred to the New York State Department of Transportation is approximately 0.018 acres or 800 square feet. The parcel is improved with lawn and trees just outside the existing highway boundary. Based on visual inspection, there are no environmental concerns associated with the requested parcel. The property has been requested by the DOT to create a sidewalk along the west side of Bear Street, which will link the multi-use trail along the Onondaga Creek. These improvements are part of the important I-81 viaduct project. The parcel is accessible from Bear Street. The parcel is a portion of Barge Canal parcel T-120-D-1 appropriated in 1916. Prior to its disposition, a review or consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office for the parcel's historic and archaeological significance will be undertaken to condition the transfer if necessary based on SHPO's recommendation. The parcel is located in a mixed-use business district. Abandonment and transfer of the property will have no impact on the Canalway Trail located on the other side of Bear Street. In order to transfer the property to the DOT, the property is first abandoned in accordance with the canal law. Then the Office of General Services reassigns jurisdiction over the property to the New York State DOT pursuant to the Public Lands Law. The Canal Corporation will work with OES to ensure it retains all rights necessary for operations and maintenance of the canal system. Next slide, please. And here's a photo from Bear Street showing the property. Are there any questions about this item?
Questions on the property item?
I do have a question.
Commissioner Stetson.
Why do we have to abandon such a small piece of property for a sidewalk? Can't we just let DOT build a sidewalk? It's just a
We're not
logistical
with council
question.
today, but I don't know. That's a good question. Ambrose, you know?
They have to
Probably have to have an interest.
They have to have
right?
jurisdiction over the property to do the improvements.
Okay.
And it has the federal funds involved, so they have to have that.
Jurisdiction is a much more legal thing than just like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Just seems like a lot of lawyer money being spent for 800 square feet, but gotta do what we gotta do.
So this is part of the Syracuse Creek Walk. So you have the Canalway Trail, but you also have the Creek Walk, which is a separate pathway. Is that correct?
Yes, the creek walk goes,
Go back.
could you go back a slide or two, please? Oh, this one. Oh, yep. So kind of right along the canal, there's a creek walk.
Like where the blue line?
Yeah,
is?
kind of right next to the blue line.
Okay.
It goes along there, so they will be adding a sidewalk there. They have a big project going on. It's the I-81 viaduct project. I don't know all the details of that, but the sidewalk is an important.
Well, is that I-81 crossing over? That's not I-81 crossing over. It's another, that's Bear Street, right?
Yeah.
Where's I-81 in relation to the somewhere?
Kind of runs perpendicular to Bear
Yeah. Yeah.
down this way.
You haven't been to the Inner Harbor in quite some time. Right, isn't it?
On this side, right? Because part of what brought my question was that the creek walk goes through canal land already, and but I understand the DOT project.
Okay. Ambrose, how's the Inner Harbor traffic? You get boats into the Inner Harbor?
Not too many, but the aquarium is starting,
The
so.
aquarium's
we'll see
starting.
what
We
happens there.
dredged the Inner Harbor about 4 years ago.
5 or 6.
5 or
now.
It was
6,
before,
wow.
it was in 2017. I feel like we haven't done it since then.
It'll be needing it again before we know it.
You can't get any really big boats between the railroad bridge and the dredging. It's tough.
Railroad
All right,
clearances.
I really didn't do this in order. We should move in second and then have our discussion. So moved by Commissioner Iafetta, second by Commissioner Cole. It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion on the property item? Commissioner Patorte, Commissioner DeRoller, any comments or questions on the property item?
Nope, sounds good to me.
Very good.
Same,
Thank you, sir.
same here. Looks good.
Thank you, commissioners. All right, all those in favor accepting the property item as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We have it passed. Thank you very much, Jessica. Excellent job. Let me get back to my run of show here. New business, other business. It is now time to move to new business or other business that may come before the commission. I think Commissioner DeRoller, this might be a good time to bring forward the items that you wanted to share with us. So go ahead.
Thank you very much. Sorry for coming in late, but I caught everything. I just couldn't communicate. Just quickly, I'm very pleased with the team's effort, the planning effort so far on this. And I concur with our other commissioner as far as hydro should be a key element within the planning process. And the quality of life of the canal corridor offers with the trail and the water use, I think needs to really be enhanced as we move this model forward for the next few decades. If you look at the 2022, the people that have left New York State, there was a survey done. You have to keep it with a grain of salt here, but almost a third of the people leaving were leaving because of quality of life. I think this canal corridor can really add value to the communities and the network and the fitness and the trails and so forth and so on. So we're on the right path there. Irrigation's very a great asset up in our area. We've got 28 siphons in our county. And fishing, you've left the canal open longer. It's generating $30 to $40 million a year in fishing industry. So fishing, the economics of it is all part of the key and the future vision. So I'm really excited about the work so far and looking forward to working with you going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Excellent comments. Well appreciated. And I know Justine and Cal are taking those down to share with our CRC 2050 team. Have that incorporated into the record of today's comments also. Commissioner Patorte, any new business or general business?
No, I'm good right now. Thank you very much.
Very good. We were very pleased to join you last week, Commissioner, for the governor's tree planting initiative in Washington County and Whitehall. Actually, we're in the town of Dresden, but right next to the town of Whitehall, right at the gateway to the Champlain Canal and to Lake Champlain. Is that 25 million trees
25
by
million.
2030?
Correct.
So, you know, we have a couple of more trees to go, but we're going to get to that goal.
And I have to apologize, you know, after I drove out to Rochester and made that meeting, and today I just forgot about it, and then it walked through, I go, oh,
Well,
shoot.
we know you're excited, and I think the tree planting probably taxed you too much, and we'll keep that in mind for the next
That's good.
22 million trees to come.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, we had a wonderful lunch at your restaurant, a wonderful visit to Whitehall, and got the lay of the land for what's in store for the next Sasquatch Festival.
We're ready. Bring them on.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez, would you like to share any thoughts or questions, information with us on behalf of the board?
Well, I appreciate being able to listen in today. I'm thinking based on some of the questions I heard today that you might want to consider adding an agenda item that would provide an overview of the infrastructure work that is being planned for the canals over the next, you know, the longer term plan, and just to reinforce the commitment from both the governor's office, the New York State legislature, and NYPA in terms of its commitment to canals long-term. I think that's what I would add today.
That's an excellent point. We'll be sure to add that to our next agenda, because we are going to be announcing at the opening of the canal. We say we're opening, spelling out the $50 million.
You're stealing my lead,
Well,
but
Shane is gonna tell
yeah,
you.
well, there'll be an announcement.
Yeah, I
We're
didn't
gonna
want
have
to
some
steal
more
anybody's
information
lead.
on
That's why I was
Shane
there.
has got an update on our 50 million, which is above and beyond the 145 million that the NIPA Board of Trustees approves for the canal every year, and that is going to be critical to some much needed infrastructure work. So Shane, why don't you?
Yes, well,
respond to the
Trustee
trustee.
Gonzalez, we will have an announcement forthcoming. But I completely agree, absolutely. And just one other note, just along that thread with infrastructure and improvements and just the technology, Ambrose, maybe food for thought for our next CRC for maintenance and ops is our engineers. We've made a lot of investments in new technology that is really aiding our workforce keep the 100-plus-year-old infrastructure going. There's been a lot of investments in the maintenance shops, and maybe through some video storytelling or photos for the next meeting, we could bring that. Sure. Just thinking about the work Gary's doing. I mean, the team is really thinking out of the box, and we've been purchasing new equipment that's really helping the core workforce keep the equipment going. So it's cool to see the technology of 2024 helping keep the technology of 1908 still functioning, and maybe that's a future presentation.
Many of those items we showed last week.
I think it's important to remind the public of what the infrastructure needs are, how old the system is, and that hopefully that this insurgence of $50 million, which was so generously included by the governor and passed by the legislature, helps the need as part of a first step toward the long-term need, but also will remind the public of the tremendous commitment the NIPA Board of Trustees have made to the canal, because we are really on the receiving end of tremendous benefits, both in equipment, safety, personnel, and infrastructure. So Trustee, thank you for those comments. Those are excellent. Anything else you'd like to add? I'm sorry. Commissioner Stetson.
Along the lines of the work done on the canal, I did want to mention that right now we have an exhibit up at the museum of the 2023 Erie Canal Artist in Residence, Matt Lopez Jensen, called The Work in the Water. His project really was to look at the work that was done largely during the non-navigation season. He collected words and text from the people who are doing the work. It's a small exhibit in our link gallery with some large and beautiful photographs, but also with some of that text as well from the workers, and then also just some kind of things that Matt collected along his journey. And a week from Saturday on the 18th, we're doing kind of a public reception for the exhibit, and Matt is coming up from his home down in New York City. So the reception's from 2 to 4, but Matt will kind of do an artist walk through the exhibit at 3 o'clock next Saturday.
And you have one coming up on the 22nd also.
Yes, yeah, on the 22nd of June. The current year, we've got 3 artists in residence this year, and one of them, Judith German Heinz. It's like I can type her name. She's coming up to do a workshop. She does tintype photography, which is a very old type of method of photography. She does it all in a tent right there on site, and so she's going to lead kind of 2 separate workshops. One in the first part of the day and one later in the day, but then people can also sign up to have their own portraits made, that after she takes them back and does final finishing on them, you can keep them. She will mail them to you. So you'll get to be able to have your own tintype image, and that will be right at the museum as well. And that's only the first of 3.
June 22nd.
Yep.
Right? On both Saturdays.
Yes.
And B, I know you want to circle your calendar if you're around. Thank you. Trustee, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just to go back to the seasonal employees, hiring, I say let's find seasonal employees that need seasonal work, right? So like school teachers and people that are on 9-month calendars that might be available for the summer. I know it's not easy to get into school districts and advertise, but maybe going through the science teachers or the geography or geology teachers, I don't know, but it seems to me an untapped resource, right?
Excellent. You reach out to school districts?
Mostly through the BOCES program, so that we can Joelle's made some really great inroads in the Central New York education system.
Shane says we worked through BOCES and we're making some good inroads through the Central New York education program. So we're hopeful that will help. Thank you very much. I want to just give an update on some of the, let me just ask if any of our agency representatives or our regional planning executives, agency friends, we heard from Sarah earlier, anybody else on there that would like to make commentary before we move on to some dates coming up that I want everyone to be aware of. Sarah, nothing more?
No, I'm just wanted to add that we're looking forward to promoting the canal this summer. We know it's a busy time for tourism in New York State, and like I said before, we're going to be activating at Canal Days, so hopefully folks can come by and see, our tourism activation there.
Good. Anyone from Department of State on with us, or Parks, or DEC? Well, thank you. Couple of dates. I think I've already told you. Next Friday is opening day. We'll be getting down there by at least 7:30 in the morning. Some of the media wants to even go earlier. So if you're an insomniac, you can come down to the canal at 4:30, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You're in Waterford?
Sunrise at the Waterford Harbor is magical
Yeah.
this time of year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The Upstate Flood Mitigation Task Force, which we've been talking about over the past year or two, is going to reconvene as it is required to do on an annual basis, and that will take place Tuesday, June 11th at Mohawk Valley Community College, the Rome campus, and that will be an afternoon meeting, 2 to 4 p.m. We'll update on the money that was also included in the executive budget and in the budget enacted by the legislature to begin the numeric modeling component, which is one of the key recommendations of the Upstate Flood Mitigation Task Force. So Tuesday, June 11th, 2 to 4 p.m. Kim, do we put out an invitation of the RSVP required?
Yes, I didn't to this group. I can.
I think we'll get that out there. So, okay. The Artist in Residence program, Natalie very, very eloquently covered that. Saturday, May 18th, and also Saturday, June 22nd. Matt Lopez Jensen, The Work of the Water, on the 18th, and Judith German-Heinz will be doing your tintype demonstration on the 22nd. The World Canals Conference is taking place in Poland, the 2024 World Canals Conference. So we have a delegation of 3 from the Canal Corporation and IPA preparing to make the journey over to Poland. In June, both Rebecca Hughes and Joe Maloney, our Eastern Division Canal engineer, are scheduled to deliver technical papers at the conference. And I will be making a transfer from the official transfer from the hosts of the Bydgoszcz Canal Conference to the Buffalo World Canals Conference for 2025. So that is the passing of the torch or the water, whatever they want to pass. And we take it from there. We're hopeful to have a nice video and a nice presentation from Governor Hochul to invite the world to come to Buffalo for the 2025 conference. We were in Buffalo on Tuesday and saw the Seneca Chief replica coming out of the long shed after 4 years of hard work. She is in the water now, and there will be a more full celebration to inaugurate her on Saturday, May 25th at the Buffalo waterfront. Shane, am I missing anything? Would you like to add anything to this list of things to be aware of?
I know there's more on the horizon over the summer, but those are the immediate events here in the near term.
Just so you know, I think I previously talked about the license plate, or the new Erie Canal Bicentennial license plate is available at the DMV website. You can get your own Erie Canal Bicentennial license plate. We have supplied keychains to you that give you a sample of what it looks like, but it's a similar packet boat, very similar to what the new Seneca Chief looks like. And it's a very handsome plate. If you want to show your love and your pride for the canal, you can get a DMV license plate. So that's out there for you. We will have a steel ceremony sometime over the summer, probably later in the summer, for the Brockport pedestrian bridge. More on that. I think we have a summer meeting coming up before September, do we? We don't know yet. Okay. We do have a September meeting that we're hopeful to have in Seneca Falls, going back to when we wanted to have it a year ago, and due to the sudden tragic death of the bank president, we were unable to hold it there, and hopeful that that will be coming forth. I wish I had a date for you for the next meeting. Is there public comment? Is there a way to receive public comment today? Because of our technical.
If they're on there, but they also have my.
They also, okay,
It's
so
been put out on social
I think you would have had to give a member of the public proxy to talk, right?
Yes.
Because we have so many technical issues since our uninvited visitor about a year ago with the Zoom bomb. So there's a lot of firewalls that are up to protect that from happening all over again. So any public comment will have to come forward via email. Take that. We do not have a date, I guess, set in stone for our next CRC meeting, except that we're hopeful that September, but I think maybe we should probably try to have one before then. You get into August and then a lot of people are away, but we'll get back on the road or back with you. Are there any other comments that you'd like to make? Anything that I've forgotten? Any questions that you might have had? Anything to share for good and welfare of the commission?
Very quickly.
Yes.
Just
Mr.
to
Ikeda.
commemorate the 25th tugboat roundup. Waterford will be this September 6th.
Very nice.
We don't have an immediate meeting this summer, but keep marked down for your calendars.
That's a very special
September
day.
6th and 25th annual tugboat roundup at the Waterford
Excellent.
Canal
Excellent.
Gateway. Thank you.
Waterford TBR.
TBR.
That'll be great. That's a wonderful place to be. And just one of many wonderful festivals. The opening application window for the Regional Economic Development Council's awards is coming up soon. And those are our grant opportunities up to $1 million total, individual grants of up to 125 or 150. In that ballpark,
range.
matching grants, capital grants, and then the whole suite of grants that are available through other programs. Angela, anything else you want to add in your wheelhouse? You have a lot going on, but we can save you for a future meeting. Okay. All right. If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Forwarded by Commissioner Wysikowski, second by Commissioner Patorti. Discussion on the motion to adjourn. Should we or shouldn't we? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kim Morapella, for a great organization.
Thanks, Beth.